Ooh. Lois was first. Yes. Conk's Corner with John Reedsley, aka me, John Voth. And Mark, my trusty advisor on Harry Potter, is also here. And Dexter, my dear dog, is here as well. I'm going to turn him so he's in there. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Conk's Corner. My name is John Voth. I am reading Harry Potter every day for an hour to take our minds off things, to laugh, to build a community, to just connect to other people. Hello, welcome, 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 welcome. Today, we have a very special episode. It's an experiment. We're going to have some fun with it. I'm going to be doing this with my buddy Robbie K. You might have seen him in Parts of the Caribbean, Heroes Unborn, Once Upon a Time. He also has not read the books before. So I'm going to welcome him in. I'm going to see how this works. I've never done this before. Okay, how do I search? Right there. Robbie K. There he is. Okay. And now this thing won't go away. Shoot. Okay, wait, let me try this again. Robbie K. Add. Let's see if he there he is. There's Robbie.
Hey, how you doing?
Pretty good. Good to see you.
Yeah, you too, buddy. You too. Heroes Unborn. What's that?
Oh, Reborn. That's that's the prequel. Heroes Unborn.
That's the prequel.
Yeah, it's just a whole bunch of babies.
yeah, way more interesting than my series was, for sure.
So how you holding up here in this whole thing? It's craziness.
Yeah, fine. Surviving. We're just taking it a day at a time. Trying to distract ourselves with TV, video games, conversations, and now apparently Harry Potter. So
yeah,
here we are.
That's what we're gonna do. We've been doing this now for almost a full month, which is crazy.
Right, that's crazy. And you're on the third book.
Sorry?
You're only on the third book.
On the third book, yeah, and we actually ended on a chapter yesterday, so we could pick it up from there.
Fantastic.
As well. So now, for everybody who is tuning in, who is listening in, Robbie, you haven't read it either.
Nope.
No, and you've seen some of the movies before.
Yes, yeah. So I've seen most of the movies, but a long time ago. So there's a lot of details that I do not remember.
Yeah, same here. I've seen 2 or 3 of the movies, but I do not remember. Just short flashes of something while reading.
Yeah.
So I know your roommate. She's an avid fan.
Yeah, Kerry, my girlfriend, is a massive Harry Potter fan. So a lot of what she says doesn't make any sense to me. A lot of her references and memes and stuff. I'm kind of like, what? What are you on about? So maybe I'll become enlightened today.
Awesome. Well, for anybody following along, here's how we're going to do it. Robbie is going to be reading the narration sections, and I'm going to be doing the voices. And we're going to explore how it goes. We'll probably break off in the middle, look at some questions you've written down, and we'll have a little section at the very end where you can write them some questions. We can interact with you. But remember, don't write any spoilers into the comments. No hints, because we both don't know what's going on. We don't want it spoiled for us. All right? Okay, so let's see where we were. We were on page, well, you have a different book, but chapter 5, The Dementor. Do you have that?
Yeah, I got it. That's I didn't realize that there was a chapter named after me. That's really weird.
yeah. She just saw a picture of you. I was like, yep, there we go.
It's like, this is my IMDb page. Hang on a minute. All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Chapter 5, The Dementor. Tom woke Harry the next morning with his usual toothless grin and a cup of tea. Harry got dressed and was just persuading a disgruntled Hedwig to get back into her cage when Ron banged his way into the room, pulling a sweatshirt over his head and looking irritable.
The sooner we get on the train, the better,
he said.
At least I can get away from Percy at Hogwarts. Now he's accusing me of dripping tea on his photo of Penelope Clearwater, you know?
Ron grimaced.
His girlfriend. She's hidden her face under the frame because her nose has gone all blotchy. I've got something to tell you,
Harry began, but they were interrupted by Fred and George, who had looked in to congratulate Ron on infuriating Percy again. They headed down to breakfast, where Mr. Weasley was reading the front page of the Daily Prophet, with a furrowed brow, and Mrs. Weasley was telling Hermione and Ginny about a love potion she'd made as a young girl. All three of them were rather giggly.
What were you saying?
Ron asked Harry as they sat down.
Later,
Harry muttered as Percy stormed in. Harry had no chance to speak to Ron or Hermione in the chaos of leaving. They were too busy heaving all of their trunks down the leaky cauldron's narrow staircase and piling them up near the door with Hedwig and Hermes, Percy's screech owl, perched on top of their cages. A small wickerwork basket stood beside the heap of trunks, spitting loudly.
It's all right, Crookshanks.
Hermione cooed through the wickerwork.
I'll let you out on the train. You won't.
Snapped Ron.
What about poor Scabbers, eh?
He pointed at his chest, where a large lump indicated that Scabbers was curled up in his pocket. Mr. Weasley, who had been outside waiting for the ministry cars, stuck his head inside.
They're here,
He said.
Harry, come on.
Mr. Weasley marched Harry across the short stretch of pavement towards the first of two old-fashioned dark green cars, each of which was driven by a furtive-looking wizard wearing a suit of emerald velvet.
In you get, Harry,
said Mr. Weasley, glancing up and down the crowded street. Harry got into the back of the car and was shortly joined by Hermione, Ron, and, to Ron's disgust, Percy. The journey to King's Cross was very uneventful compared with Harry's trip on the night bus. The night bus? What's the night bus, John?
The night bus. That's when when Harry he left his home at the beginning of this book, and then he almost got run over by this night bus where Stan, that Cockney guy, was.
Right.
That's the guy. So I think it just takes you wherever you want to go.
Okay.
That's my impression.
It picks up stranded wizards.
It picks up stranded wizards. That's what Mark is saying.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
The journey to King's Cross was very uneventful compared with Harry's trip on the night bus. The Ministry of Magic's cars seemed almost ordinary, though Harry noticed that they could slide through gaps that Uncle Vernon's new company car certainly couldn't have managed. They reached King's Cross with 20 minutes to spare. The Ministry drivers found them trolleys, unloaded their trunks, touched their hats in salute to Mr. Weasley, and drove away, somehow managing to jump to the head of an unmoving line of the traffic lights. Mr. Weasley kept close to Harry's elbow all the way into the station.
Right then,
He said, glancing around them.
let's do this in pairs. As there are so many of us, I'll go through first with Harry.
Mr. Weasley strolled towards the barrier between platforms 9 and 10, pushing Harry's trolley and apparently very interested in the Intercity 125 that has just arrived at the platform 9. With a meaningful look at Harry, he leaned casually against the barrier. Harry imitated him. In a moment, they had fallen sideways through the solid metal onto platform 9 3/4 and looked up to see the Hogwarts Express, a scarlet steam engine puffing smoke over a platform packed with witches and wizards seeing their children onto the train. Percy and Ginny suddenly appeared behind Harry. They were panting and had apparently taken the barrier to run.
Ah, there's Penelope,
said Percy, smoothing his hair and going pink again. Ginny caught Harry's eye, and then they both turned away to hide their laughter as Percy strode over to a girl with long, curly hair, walking with his chest thrown out so that she couldn't miss his shiny badge. Once the remaining Weasleys and Hermione had joined them, Harry and Ron led the way to the end of the train, past packed compartments, to a carriage that looked quite empty. They loaded the trunks onto it, stowed Hedwig and Crookshanks in the luggage rack, then went back outside to say goodbye to Mr. and Mrs. Weasley. Mr. Weasley kissed all her children, then Hermione, and finally Harry. He was embarrassed, but really quite pleased when she gave him an extra hug.
Don't take care, won't you, Harry?
She said as she straightened up, her eyes oddly bright. Then she opened her enormous handbag and said,
I've made you all sandwiches. Here you are, Ron. No, they're not corned beef. Fred, where's Fred? Ah, here you are, dear. Harry,
said Mr. Weasley quietly.
come over here for a moment.
He jerked his head toward a pillar, and Harry followed him behind it, leaving the others crowded around Mrs. Weasley.
There's something I've got to tell you before you leave,
said Mr. Weasley in a tense voice.
It's all right, Mr. Weasley,
said Harry.
I already know. You know? How could you know? I heard you and Mrs. Weasley talking last night. I couldn't help hearing.
Harry added quickly.
Sorry, that's not the way I had chosen for you to find out,
said Mr. Weasley, looking anxious.
No, honestly, it's okay. This way, you haven't broken your word to Fudge, and I know what's going on. Harry, you must be very scared. I'm not,
said Harry sincerely.
Really?
he added, because Mr. Weasley was looking disbelieving.
I'm not trying to be a hero, but seriously, Sirius Black can't be worse than Voldemort, can't he?
Mr. Weasley flinched at the sound of the name, but overlooked it.
Harry, I know you were, well, made of stronger stuff than Fudge seems to think, and I'm obviously pleased that you're not scared, but... Arthur!
called Mrs. Weasley, who was now shepherding the rest onto the train.
Arthur, what are you doing? It's about to go. He's coming, Molly,
said Mr. Weasley, but he turned back to Harry and kept talking in a lower and more hurried voice.
Listen, I want you to give me your word that I'll be a good boy and stay in the castle,
said Harry gloomily.
Not entirely,
said Mr. Weasley, who looked more serious than Harry had ever seen him.
Harry, swear to me you won't go looking for Black.
Harry stared.
What?
There was a loud whistle. Guards were walking along the train, slamming all the doors shut.
Promise me, Harry,
said Mr. Weasley, talking more quickly still,
that whatever happens, why would I go looking for someone I know wants to kill me?
said Harry blankly.
Swear to me whatever you might hear. Arthur, quickly! cried
Mrs. Weasley. Steam was billowing from the train. It had started to move. Harry ran to the compartment door and Ron threw it open and stood back to let him on. They leant at the window and waved at Mr. and Mrs. Weasley until the train turned a corner and blocked them from view.
All right, seems like there's something even deeper going on with this Sirius Black that we don't know about yet.
Interesting.
Yeah, you know, it's funny when you're reading because you've got the genuine accent, right? Well,
yeah.
Like when I'm reading, are there certain words where you're wincing, you're going, ugh, ooh, that doesn't sound right?
Yeah, see, here's my problem. I've lived in the United States for like almost 10 years now, so I've almost forgotten what words I should be pronouncing correctly and which ones I'm not pronouncing correctly. So I'm kind of flying in the dark here.
So when you go back home, do your mates make fun of you?
Oh yeah,
yeah,
definitely. Yeah. I'll say one thing that isn't like there'll be words where I have a slight American twang because I've been here for so long, and I'll be like, oh, you're American, and then that's it, you know. So
I just read in the comments somebody said, Robbie, do the house quiz. Have you done the house quiz yet?
I have. Kerry made me do it a few years ago, and before she even started the quiz, she knew exactly what house I was going to be in, and I was like, nah, that's BS. It's all, you know, it's all going to give you a random house. Like I'll get a different one every time I do the quiz. And she said that I would get Slytherin, and I did. So,
you got Slytherin?
Yeah. Apparently,
no way.
So there you go. So yeah, I'm wearing my my Slytherin socks.
Oh, nice.
In honor of the reading. I'm representing.
Wait, so you could go evil or very good and powerful, basically. I think that's how Slytherin works, right? Just very powerful, and they choose if they go evil or good or something like that.
Okay.
I don't know much yet either.
I mean, pretty good to me.
Okay, where were you at? We were, just got on the train, right?
Turn a corner and block them from view. Top of
So,
I need to talk to you in private.
Yeah.
Where you're at.
This had only one. Sorry. They just finished. Okay. One second. Steam was billowing from the train that started to move. Okay, there we go. I need to talk to you in private.
Harry muttered to Ron and Hermione as the train picked up speed.
Go away, Ginny,
said Ron.
Oh, that's nice,
said Ginny huffily, and she stalked off. Harry, Ron, and Hermione set off down the corridor, looking for an empty compartment, but all were full except for one at the very end of the train. This only had one occupant, a man sitting fast asleep next to the window. Is it serious?
Oh, maybe.
Harry, Ron, and Hermione checked on the threshold. The Hogwarts Express was usually reserved for students, and they had never seen an adult there before, except for the witch who pushed the food cart. The stranger was wearing an extremely shabby set of wizard's robes that had been darned in several places. He looked ill and exhausted. Though quite young, his light brown hair was flecked with grey.
I just want to go back a little bit to this witch pushing the food trolley. Like, she's gone from being like going to Hogwarts, learning all the the magic, and now she pushes a food trolley.
Yeah, it's like what went wrong? Like what happened to her that got promoted to the food lady?
I don't think you can make any spells here, so we're gonna get you to push some food around a train. Okay, Ron, who do you reckon he is?
Ron hissed as they sat down and slid the door shut, taking the seats farthest away from the window.
Professor R.J. Lupin.
whispered Hermione at once.
How do you know that? It's on his case,
she replied, pointing at the luggage rack over the man's head, where there was a small battered case held together with a large quantity of neatly knotted string. The name Professor R.J. Lupin was stamped across one corner in peeling letters.
Wonder what he teaches,
said Ron, frowning at Professor Lupin's pallid profile.
That's obvious,
whispered Hermione.
There's only one vacancy, isn't there? Defense against the dark arts.
Harry, Ron, and Hermione had already had 2 defense against the dark arts teachers, both of whom had lasted only 1 year. There were rumours that the job was jinxed.
Well, I hope he's up to it,
said Ron doubtfully.
He looks like one good hex would finish him off, doesn't he? Anyway.
He turned to Harry.
What were you going to tell us?
Harry explained all about Mr. and Mrs. Weasley's argument and the warning Mr. Weasley had just given him. When he finished, Ron looked thunderstruck. What does a thunderstruck look? Ron looked thunderstruck.
It's almost as constipated as the hat.
Right. And Hermione had her hands over her mouth. She finally lowered them to say,
Sirius Black escaped to come after you? Oh, Harry, you'll have to be really, really careful. Don't go looking for trouble, Harry. I don't go looking for trouble,
said Harry, nettled.
Trouble usually finds me.
Ooh, what a badass.
Yeah, yeah. He's like
oh, I'm cool.
At that moment.
I'm a teenager now. I can do whatever I want.
Yeah, he's gotten a little, cocky. He's just saying, I don't need a family. I don't care about the serial killers coming after me. I'm good. I don't go looking for trouble. Trouble usually finds me. How thick would Harry have to be to go looking for a nutter who wants to kill him?
Said Ron shakily. They were taking the news worse than Harry had expected. Both Ron and Hermione seemed to be much more frightened of Black than he was.
No one knows how he got out of Azkaban,
said Ron uncomfortably.
No one's ever done it before, and he was a top security prisoner too. But they'll catch him, won't they? Said Hermione earnestly. I mean, they've got all the muggles looking out for him too. What's that noise? Said Ron suddenly. A faint, tinny sort of whistle was coming from somewhere. They looked all around the compartment. By the way, for anybody who's in the chat, give us adjectives for this new teacher. What's his name again? Lupin. Lupin. Yeah, give us some adjectives for him, because then that'll inform my voice I'm doing here. All right. It's coming from your trunk, Harry. Said Ron. Is that a euphemism? Said Ron, standing up and reaching into the luggage rack. A moment later, he had pulled the pocket sneakoscope. All right. Okay. The sneakoscope, that was, it tells you if there's somebody untrustworthy nearby. Oh, okay. Okay, so they could use this on this Lupin character, or probably later on finding out where Sirius is, or if he's disguised himself or something. Okay. A moment later, he had pulled the pocket sneakoscope out from... See, I can't remember if that's actually an English word or a Harry Potter word. I think it might be an English word, I don't know. Yeah, I have a hunch. Out from between Harry's robes. It was spinning very fast in the palm of Ron's hand and glowing brilliantly. Is that a sneakoscope? Said Hermione interestedly, standing up for a better look. Yeah, mind you, it's a very cheap one, Ron said. It went haywire just as I was tying it to Errol's leg to send Harry. Were you doing anything untrustworthy at the time? Said Hermione shrewdly. No. Well, I wasn't supposed to be using Errol. You know he's not really up to long journeys. But how else was I supposed to get Harry's present to him? Stick it in the back of the trunk, Harry advised, as the sneakoscope whistled piercingly. Or it'll wake him up. He nodded towards Professor Lupin. Ron stuffed the sneakoscope into a particularly horrible pair of Uncle Vernon's old socks, which deadened the sound, then closed the lid of the trunk on it. We could get it checked in Hogsmeade, said Ron, sitting back down. They sell that sort of thing in Dervish and Bangers, magical instruments and stuff, Fred and George told me. Do you know much about Hogsmeade? Asked Hermione keenly. I've read it's only entirely non-Muggle settlement in Britain. Yeah, I think it is, said Ron in an offhand sort of way. But that's not why I want to go. I just want to get inside Honeydukes. What's that? Said Hermione. This sweet shop, said Ron, a dreamy look coming over his face. Where they've got everything. Pepper imps, they make you smoke at the mouth, and great fat choco balls full of strawberry mousse and clotted cream and really excellent sugar quills, which you can suck in class and just look like you're thinking about what to write next. Okay, this sounds so good. I want to eat all of these things. But Hogsmeade's a very interesting place, isn't it?
Hermione pressed on eagerly.
In sites of historical sorcery, it says the inn was the headquarters for the 1612 Goblin Rebellion, and the Shrieking Shack's supposed to be the most severely haunted building in Britain, and massive sherbet balls that make you levitate a few inches off the ground while you're sucking them.
Whoa!
Oh, man.
All right, said Ron, who was plainly not listening to a word Hermione was saying. Hermione looked around at Harry.
Won't it be nice to get out of school for a bit and explore Hogsmeade? Next page, okay. Expect it will,
said Harry heavily.
You'll have to tell me when you've found out. What do you mean?
Said Ron.
I can't go. The Dursleys didn't sign my permission form, and Fudge wouldn't either.
Ron looked horrified.
You're not allowed to come? But no way. McGonagall or someone will give you permission.
Harry gave a hollow laugh. Professor McGonagall, head of Gryffindor House, was very strict.
Or we can ask Fred and George. They know every secret passage out of the castle. Ron!
Said Hermione sharply.
I don't think Harry should be sneaking out of school with Black on the loose. Yeah, I expect that's what McGonagall will say when I ask for permission.
Said Harry bitterly.
But if we're with him...
Said Ron spiritedly to Hermione.
Black wouldn't dare. Oh, Ron, don't talk rubbish.
Snapped Hermione.
Black's already murdered a whole bunch of people in the middle of a crowded street. Do you really think he's going to worry about attacking Harry just because we're there?
She was fumbling with the straps of Crookshank's basket as she spoke.
You know what'd be interesting? Because we've got a serial killer here. I don't think anybody's died yet, except for Harry's parents in the last books, right?
Really?
I don't think so. So I wonder if they're gonna have some murdery scenes in this one. It's like well, except for nobody's died.
Starting to get serious now.
Yeah, we'll see. Stalking around.
Yeah, it's starting to get serious. Gotcha.
Okay, where were we? Okay.
Oh yeah, she was fumbling with the straps of Crookshank's basket as she spoke.
Don't let that thing out,
Ron said, but too late. Crookshanks leapt lightly from the basket, stretched, yawned, and sprang onto Ron's knees. The lump in Ron's pocket trembled as he shoved Crookshanks angrily away.
Get out of it! Ron, don't!
Said Hermione angrily. Ron was about to answer back, but Professor Lupin stirred. They watched him apprehensively, but he simply turned his head the other way, mouth slightly open, and slept on. The Hogwarts Express moved steadily north, and the scenery outside the window became wilder and darker, while the clouds overhead thickened. Uh-oh. People were chasing backward and forward past the door of their compartment. Crookshanks had now settled into an empty seat. His squashed face turned toward Ron, his yellow eyes on Ron's top pocket. At 1 o'clock, the plump witch with the food cart, here she is again, our favourite character.
I hate my life.
Kill me! Arrived at the compartment door.
Do you think we should wake him up?
Ron asked awkwardly, nodding toward Professor Lupin.
He looks like he could do with some food.
Hermione approached Professor Lupin cautiously.
Professor?
She said.
Excuse me, Professor.
He didn't move.
Oh, here we go with the witch. Don't worry, dear,
said the witch as she handed Harry a large stack of cauldron cakes.
If he's hungry when he wakes, I'll be up front with the driver.
You're like, sure you will be. You're not allowed back there, let's be honest.
No, she's got a little tiny room she's squashed into it, but she's not pushing food down the alley.
So depressing.
Where are we? Oh yeah, Ron. Suppose he is asleep,
said Ron quietly as the witch slid the compartment door closed.
I mean, he hasn't died, has he? No, he's breathing,
whispered Hermione, taking the cauldron cake Harry passed her. He might not be very good company, but Professor Lupin's presence in their compartment had its uses. Mid-afternoon, just as it was starting to rain, blurring the rolling hills outside the window, they heard footsteps in the corridor again, and their last three favourite people appeared at the door. Slytherin gang, checking in. Draco Malfoy, flanked by his cronies, Vincent Crabbe and Gregory Goyle.
Oh, perfect pronunciation.
Right? Is that it?
Robbie. Perfect pronunciation.
Almost as if you told him.
His French cronies. I just knew. I just had a hunch.
Yeah, that's how it's written, right? That's how it's written. So
exactly. Yeah, no, I just read it off the page.
We'll see if they even talk during this session. They usually never talk when Draco's around.
Have you given them French accents?
Goyelle is French and Crabbe he's basically Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh, really?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
What are you doing here?
Get him with a wand.
Draco Malfoy and Harry had been enemies ever since they had met on their very first train journey to Hogwarts. Malfoy, who had a pale, pointed, sneering face, was in Slytherin House. Yeah, we know, mate. He played Seeker on the... It's the third book. Why is she telling us this?
New readers, man. Gotta get those new readers.
Fair enough. Just in case, like me, you show up at chapter 5 in book 3 and just decide to go from there.
Exactly, yeah.
Gotta say, it's very useful. Was in Slytherin House. He played Seeker on the Slytherin Quidditch team, the same position that Harry played on the Gryffindor team. Crabbe and Goyelle seemed to exist to do Malfoy's bidding. They were both wide and muscly.
Ooh. They're hitting puberty.
Crabbe was taller, a bodybuilder, with a pudding bowl haircut and a very thick neck. Goyelle had short, bristly hair and long, gorilla-ish arms.
Well, look who it is,
said Malfoy in his usual lazy drawl, pulling open the compartment door.
Potty and the Weasel.
Crabbe and Goyelle chuckled trollishly.
Where are we, Malfoy? I heard your father finally got his hands on some gold this summer, Weasley,
said Malfoy.
Did your mother die of shock?
Ron stood up so quickly he knocked Crookshank's basket to the floor. Professor Lupin gave a snort.
Who's that?
Said Malfoy, taking an automatic step backward as he spotted Lupin.
New teacher,
said Harry, who got his feet too, in case he needed to hold Ron back.
What were you saying, Malfoy?
Malfoy's pale eyes narrowed. He wasn't fool enough to pick a fight right under a teacher's nose.
Come on,
he muttered resentfully to Crabbe and Goyelle, and they disappeared. Harry and Ron sat down again, Ron massaging his knuckles. I'm not going
to take any rubbish from Malfoy this year,
he said angrily.
I mean it. If he makes one more crack about my family, I'm going to get hold of his head and...
Ron made a violent gesture in midair.
Ron,
hissed Hermione, pointing at Professor Lupin.
Be careful.
But Professor Lupin was still fast asleep. Jesus, what pill did this guy take?
He's just such a heavy sleeper.
It's like World War III's going on in front of him and he just won't wake up.
Oh, keep going.
The rain thickened as the train sped yet farther north. The windows were now a solid, shimmering grey, which gradually darkened until lanterns flickered into life all along the corridors and over the luggage rack. The train rattled, the rain hammered, the wind roared, but still Professor Lupin slept.
We must be nearly there,
said Ron, leaning forward to look past Professor Lupin at the now completely black window. The words had hardly left him when the train started to slow down.
Brilliant,
said Ron, getting up and walking carefully past Professor Lupin to try and see outside.
I'm starving. I want to get to the feast. We can't be there yet, said
Hermione, checking her watch.
So why are we stopping?
The train was getting slower and slower. As the noise of the pistons fell away, the wind and rain sounded louder than ever against the windows. Harry, who was nearest the door, got up to look into the corridor. All along the carriage, heads were sticking curiously out of their compartments. The train came to a stop with a jolt, and distant thuds and bangs told them that luggage had fallen out of the racks. Then, without warning, all the lamps went out, and they were plunged into total darkness.
What's going on? What is going on?
Yeah, from behind Harry.
Ouch!
Gasped Hermione.
Ron, that was my foot.
Harry felt his way back to the seat.
Do you think we've broken down? Dunno.
There was a squeaking sound, and Harry saw the dim, black outline of Ron wiping a patch clean on the window and peering out.
There's something moving out there,
Ron said.
I think people are coming aboard.
The compartment door suddenly opened, and someone fell painfully over Harry's legs.
I don't know. Oh, it's Neville. Sorry, do you know what's going on? Ouch! Sorry. Hello, Neville,
said Harry, feeling around in the dark and pulling Neville up by his cloak.
Oh, Harry, is that you? What's happening? No idea. Sit down.
He sounds like a marshmallow. Like if a marshmallow could speak, that would be his voice.
That's so true. Yeah, he's a marshmallow who's just always like, oh, Oh, my life is just a big mistake.
Yeah, don't go near fire. There was a loud hissing and a yelp of pain. Neville had tried to sit on Crookshanks.
Who's saying this? Hermione. I'm going to go and ask the driver what's going on.
Came Hermione's voice. Came Hermione's voice?
Came Hermione. Maybe from the dark.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'll let that slide. Harry felt her pass him, heard the door slide open again, and then a thud and two loud squeals of pain.
Oh, who's this? Oh, it's Ginny. Wait. Who's that? Who's that? Ginny. Hermione? I don't know who's saying what here. Like, what are you doing? I was looking for Ron. Come and sit down. Not here,
said Harry hurriedly.
I'm here. Ouch,
said Neville.
Quiet,
said a hoarse voice suddenly. Professor Lupin appeared to have woken up at last. His meds were wearing off. Harry could hear movements in his corner. None of them spoke. There was a soft, crackling noise, and a shivering light filled the compartment. Professor Lupin appeared to be holding a handful of flames. They illuminated his tired, grey face, but his eyes looked alert and wary.
Okay, calm, wise, intelligent, humble.
Okay, calm, wise, intelligent, humble teacher. Okay, Professor Lupin. Stay where you... No, we gotta find something specific for him, but stay where you are,
he said in the same hoarse voice, and he got slowly to his feet with his handful of fire, or cool, held out in front of him. But the door slid slowly open before Lupin could reach it. Standing in the doorway, illuminated by the shivering flames in Lupin's hand, was a cloaked figure that towered to the ceiling. Its face was completely hidden beneath its hood.
Oh.
Harry's eyes darted downward, and what he saw made his stomach contract. There was a hand protruding from the cloak, and it was a glistening, greyish, slimy-looking, and scabbed like something dead that had decayed in water.
Whoa.
But it was visible only for a split second, as though the creature beneath the cloak sensed Harry's gaze. The hand was suddenly withdrawn into the folds of its black cloak. He's holding a Coke. He's holding a can of Coke.
Yeah. Would you like some?
It's the new trolley lady.
Yeah. Every station they transfer over every station.
And then the thing beneath the hood, whatever it was, drew a long, slow, rattling breath, as though it were trying to suck something more than air from its surroundings. An intense cold swept over them all. Harry felt his own breath catch in his chest. The cold went deeper than his skin. It was inside his chest. It was inside his very heart. Harry's eyes rolled up into his head. He couldn't see. He was drowning in cold. And there was a rushing in his ears, as though of water. He was being dragged downward, the roaring growing louder. And then, from far away, he heard screaming. Terrible, terrified, pleading screams. He wanted to help whoever it was. He tried to move his arms, but couldn't. A thick white fog was swirling around him, inside him.
Harry, are you all right?
Someone was slapping his face.
What?
Harry opened his eyes. There were lanterns above him, and the floor was shaking. The Hogwarts Express was moving again, and the lights had come back on. He seemed to have slid out of his seat and onto the floor. Ron and Hermione were kneeling next to him, and above him they could see Neville and Professor Lupin watching. Harry felt very sick. When he put up his hand to push his glasses back on, he felt cold sweat on his face. Ron and Hermione heaved him back onto his seat.
Are you okay?
Ron asked nervously.
Yeah,
said Harry, looking quickly towards the door. The hooded creature had vanished.
What happened? Where's that thing? Who screamed? No one screamed,
said Ron, more nervously still. Harry looked around at the bright compartment. Ginny and Neville looked back at him, both very pale.
But I heard screaming.
A loud snap made them all jump. Professor Lupin was breaking an enormous slab of chocolate into pieces.
Yep,
he said to Harry, handing him a particularly large piece.
Eat it. It'll help.
Harry took the chocolate, but didn't eat it.
What was that thing?
He asked Lupin.
A Demento,
said Lupin, who was now giving chocolate to everyone else.
One of the Dementors of Azkaban.
Whoa.
Okay.
Everyone stared at him. Professor Lupin crumpled up the empty chocolate wrapper and put it in his pocket.
Wait, so obviously we don't know what a Dementor is yet, except that they're cloaked figures. That means Azkaban has a number of these things or something. Like this prison has a number of these things, whatever they are.
Yeah, maybe they're like guards of the prison or something.
Yeah, but it doesn't make sense that they're out here. I mean, I guess they'll explain it in a second.
Maybe they're looking. Maybe they're looking for Sirius because he escaped.
Oh yeah, good idea. Yeah, that could be.
Everyone stared at him. Professor Lupin crumpled up the empty chocolate wrapper and put it in his pocket.
Eat,
He repeated.
It'll help. I need to speak to the driver. Excuse me.
He strolled past Harry and disappeared into the corridor.
Are you sure you're okay, Harry?
Said Hermione, watching Harry anxiously.
I don't get it. What happened?
Said Harry, wiping more sweat off his face.
Well, that thing, the Dementor, stood there and looked around. I mean, I think I did. I couldn't see its face. And you, I thought you were having a fit or something.
Said Ron, who still looked scared.
You went sort of rigid and fell out of your seat and started twitching. And Professor Lupin stepped over you and walked towards the Dementor and pulled out his wand.
Said Hermione.
And he said, none of us is hiding Sirius Black under our cloaks. Go. But the Dementor didn't move, so Lupin muttered something, and a silvery thing shot out of his wand at it, and it turned round and sort of glided away. It was horrible.
He's like drowning in his own marshmallow. Poor Neville. Said Neville in a higher voice than usual.
Did you feel how cold it went when it came in? I felt weird. Said
Ron, shifting his shoulders uncomfortably.
Like I'd never be cheerful again. Oh, these are like that just tells me maybe they suck like joy or life out of people or something like that, because it said it sucks, right?
Yeah,
something like that.
Ginny, who was huddled in her corner looking nearly as bad as Harry felt, gave a small sob. Hermione went over and put a comforting arm around her.
But didn't any of you fall off your seats?
Said Harry awkwardly.
No,
said Ron, looking anxiously at Harry again.
Ginny was shaking like mad, though.
Harry didn't understand. He felt weak and shivery, as though he were recovering from a bad bout of flu. He also felt the beginnings of shame. Why had he gone to pieces like that when no one else had? Good point.
Yeah.
Professor Lupin had come back. He paused as he entered, looked around and said, with a small smile,
I haven't poisoned that chocolate, you know.
Why would he say that? What? what an absolute wind-up merchant.
Yeah, that's true. Every single time you share something with people, like, by the way, not poisoned.
Yeah.
Not poisoned at all.
What an edgelord. Harry took a bite and, to his great surprise, felt warmth spread suddenly to the tips of his fingers and toes.
We'll be at Hogwarts in 10 minutes,
said Professor Lupin.
Are you all right, Harry?
Harry didn't ask how Professor Lupin knew his name.
Fine,
he muttered, embarrassed. They didn't talk much during the remainder of the journey. At long last, the train stopped at Hogsmeade Station, and there was a great scramble to get outside. Owls hooted, cats meowed, and Neville's pet toad creaked loudly from under his hat. It was freezing on the tiny platform. Rain was driving down in icy sheets.
First year's this way,
called a familiar voice. Harry, Ron and Hermione turned and saw the gigantic outline of Hagrid at the other end of the platform, beckoning the terrified-looking new students forward for their traditional journey across the lake.
All right, you three.
Hagrid yelled over the heads of the crowd. They waved at him, but had no chance to speak to him because the mass of people around them was shunting them away along the platform.
Oh, man.
Harry, Ron and Hermione followed the rest of the school along the platform and out onto a rough mud track, where at least 100 stagecoaches awaited the remaining students, each pulled, Harry could only assume, by an invisible horse, because when they climbed inside and shut the door, the coach set off all by itself, bumping and swaying in procession. Wow. John, should we take a quick break here, because it's been 40 minutes already?
Yeah, absolutely.
Take a look at the chat or something and maybe answer a couple questions.
Yeah, if you have any questions, shoot out the question. What's up? We need a gratuitous Dexter shots, and here's Dexter while people are writing their questions. So, how come you haven't read the books yet?
Because honestly, the movies came out when I was a kid, and when I was a kid, I was more interested in movies than I was in books. So
right.
I watched the movies first, and after watching the movies, I was one of those guys that all Harry Potter lovers probably hate, where I'm like, well, I've seen the movies, maybe I don't need to read the books. But I am remembering things about about the third movie.
Oh, you are?
Noticing a couple differences in the storyline, because it's like reminding me of the scenes in the movie, and I remember things differently. So it's quite interesting.
Here's a question for you. Do you have a favorite character yet?
You mean in this chapter?
Let's go the whole series till now.
Probably Harry. I think he's quite a nice constant. I like narratives where the main character, like things kind of happen around the main character, and he's kind of like sucked into this world that sort of without any option really. He kind of has to just go along with it, and I like the way that he deals with it. So I would say that. Yeah.
She does a good job of he's slowly developing actually a character, because in the beginning he's just this character where everything's happening to him, and now he can actually. Do we have Robbie? Which scene that you did playing Peter Pan was your favorite?
God, it's crazy how long ago that series was now. There were quite a few scenes that I really enjoyed. I remember there was one point in the series where I switched bodies with a character called Henry, and I got to play a good guy for once. So after 9 episodes of being the bad guy that everybody hated, it was quite nice to be able to play the good guy for once. Everyone on set was looking at me at the end of each scene like I was the devil. It was quite nice to be liked for once.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
What else we got?
Caitlin has a question for you, John Voth. What do you smell like?
What do I smell like? Or rancid garbage. That's how I smell. We're in quarantine. No need to shower. No need at all. Another question here. How are you doing in quarantine, Robbie?
I'm doing great. To be honest, we're very lucky. We prepped fairly well. We have everything we need in the house. We're only going out when we need to. But above everything else, we're keeping a really positive mindset. We're kind of taking it for what it is. We think it's going to go on for a long time, and we're trying to make the most of it. So, as horrible as it is, we're trying to keep our heads above water and try not to get inundated with the bad news around the world, because it's so easy to just get caught up in everything. I think everything in moderation is
totally
pretty good advice right now, and we're trying to abide by that. And so, I'm pretty sure Kerry is sick of me by now, but we generally try to stay out of each other's way for the most part, to make sure we're not kind of on top of each other, because
yeah, it's tight quarters.
It's easy to get on each other's nerves,
Yeah. Okay, we got 17 minutes left. Should we do another 10 minutes and then we'll leave some space at the end?
That sounds great. Yeah. How long do we have to talk? Probably have a long time until the end of the chapter, but yeah. Let's go.
Coach, should we go from the coach smelled faintly of mold and straw?
The coach smelled faintly of John. Harry felt better.
Nice.
But still weak. Ron and Hermione kept looking at him sideways, as though frightened as he might collapse again. As the carriage trundled towards a pair of magnificent wrought iron gates, flanked with stone columns topped with winged boars, Harry saw 2 more towering, hooded Dementors standing guard on either side. A wave of cold sickness threatened to engulf him again. He leaned back into the lumpy seat and closed his eyes until... When it said lumpy seat, I assumed like Neville was right behind him. Just like chilling.
Yeah, and I keep on thinking, if this... Is Harry going to puke every single time a Dementor's around? There's like 5 different sections just puking in the book.
I have a feeling that would be a big problem for him, if that's the case.
I think so. He'd probably have to leave after a week.
All right, the lumpy seat, and closed his eyes until they had passed the gates. The carriage picked up speed on the long, sloping drive up to the castle. Hermione was leaning out of the tiny window, watching the many turrets and towers draw nearer. At last, the carriage swayed to a halt, and Hermione and Ron got out. As Harry stepped down, a drawling, delighted voice sounded in his ear.
Okay, who is this? Oh, it's Malfoy. You fainted, Potter. Is Longbottom telling the truth? You actually fainted?
Malfoy elbowed past Hermione to block Harry's way up the stone steps of the castle, his face gleeful and his pale eyes glinting maliciously.
Shove off, Malfoy,
said Ron, whose jaw was clenched.
Did you faint as well, Weasley?
Said Malfoy loudly.
Did the scary old Dementor frighten you too, Weasley? Is there a problem?
Said a mild voice. Professor Lupin had just gotten out of the next carriage. Malfoy gave Professor Lupin an insolent stare, which took in the patches on his robes and the dilapidated suitcase. With a tiny hint of sarcasm in his voice, he said,
Oh, no, Professor.
Then he smirked at Crabbe and Goyle and led them up the steps of the castle. Hermione prodded Ron in the back to make him hurry, and the three of them joined the crowd swarming up the steps, through the giant oak front doors, into the cavernous entrance hall, which was lit with flaming torches and housed a magnificent marble staircase that led to the upper floors. The door into the great hall stood open at the right. Harry followed the crowd toward it, but had barely glimpsed the enchanted ceiling, which was black and cloudy tonight, when a voice called,
Professor, Potter, Granger, I want to see you both.
Harry and Hermione turned around, surprised. Professor McGonagall, Transfiguration teacher and head of Gryffindor House, was calling over the heads of the crowd. She was a stern-looking witch who wore her hair in a tight bun. Her sharp eyes were framed with square spectacles. Harry fought his way over to her with a feeling of foreboding. Professor McGonagall had a way of making him feel he must have done something wrong.
There's no need to look so worried. I just wanted a word in my office,
she told them.
Move along there, Weasley.
He's like, don't worry about it, but get into my office right now.
Yeah,
like
you don't feel any calmer about that.
Like, what is it with all these teachers and their mind games?
I know, nobody's straightforward. Yeah, that's true. Dumbledore's always like, well, I knew all along, but I didn't tell you before.
They're all like winking at the camera, like constantly. Like, oh, you
yeah,
could
when
die.
you grow up.
We're just messing with your lives.
Yeah, I
There's
could have
nothing
told
you can do about it.
I could have told you about this before and prevented you from getting hurt, but I thought the lesson was more important.
Now 7 students are dead. Oh well. Ridiculous. Ron stared as Professor McGonagall ushered Harry and Hermione away from the chattering crowd. They accompanied her across the entrance hall, up the marble staircase, and along a corridor. Once they were in her office, a small room with a large, welcoming fire, Professor McGonagall motioned Harry and Hermione to sit down. She settled herself behind her desk and said abruptly,
Professor Lupin sent an owl ahead to say that you were taken ill on the train, Potter.
Before Harry could reply, there was a soft knock on the door, and Madame Pomfrey, the nurse, came bustling in. Harry felt himself going red in the face.
Yo, 1 second. There's now a difference. Do you have the UK version or the American version of the books?
I have the American version.
Okay, because what I read is that the only difference between books is sometimes they changed words. So in mine it says the matron, and yours it says the nurse.
Interesting.
Yeah, stuff like that. Just so that American English speakers understand better or something like that. Yeah. Anyway.
Harry felt himself going red in the face. It was bad enough that he passed out, or whatever he had done, without everyone making all the fuss.
I'm fine. I don't need anything. Oh, it's you, is it?
Said Madame Pomfrey, ignoring this and bending down to stare closely at him.
I suppose you've been doing something dangerous again. It was a Dementor, Poppy,
said Professor McGonagall. They exchanged a dark look, and Madame Pomfrey clucked disapprovingly. God, they're so judgmental.
Yeah, I know.
They're like, oh, what have you done this time, Harry? He's like, I got accosted on the train.
Yeah.
I almost died.
I saved this place twice already.
Like, yeah, literally, like, no one's taking him seriously. He's like, where's my honorary position, guys?
Yeah. Where is? Oh, Pomfrey. Setting Dementors around the school,
she muttered. pushing back Harry's hair and feeling his forehead.
You won't be the first one who collapses. Yes, he's all clammy. Terrible things they are, and the effect they have on people who are already delicate. I'm not delicate.
Harry said crossly. I really feel for this guy.
Yeah. Of course you're not,
said Madame Pomfrey absent-mindedly, now taking his pulse.
What does he need?
Said Professor McGonagall crisply.
Bed rest? Bed rest? Bed rest.
Bed rest.
Bed rest.
From
Should be
Belarus.
perhaps he's spending the night in the hospital wing.
It's from Transylvania.
Yeah.
Oh.
Should he perhaps spend tonight in the hospital wing? I'm fine,
said Harry, jumping up. The thought of what Draco Malfoy would say if he had to go to the hospital wing was torture.
Well, he should have some chocolate, at the very least,
said Madame Pomfrey, who was now trying to peer into Harry's eyes.
I've already had some,
said Harry.
Professor Lupin gave me some. He gave it to all of us. Did he now?
They're like, he did what?
Yeah, drug the kids.
You know what was in the chocolate? Said Madame Pomfrey approvingly.
So we finally got a defense against the dark arts teacher who knows his remedies. Are you sure you feel all right, Potter?
Professor McGonagall said sharply.
Yes,
said Harry.
Very well. Kindly wait outside while I have a quick word with Miss Granger about her timetable. Then we can go down to the feast together.
Harry went back into the corridor with Madame Pomfrey, who left for the hospital wing, muttering to herself. He had to wait only for a few minutes. Then Hermione emerged, looking very happy about something, followed by Professor McGonagall, and the three of them made their way back down the marble staircase to the Great Hall. It was a sea of pointed black hats. Each of the longhouse tables was lined with students, their faces glimmering by the light of 1,000 candles, which were floating over the tables in midair. Whoa. Professor Flitwick, who was a tiny little wizard with a shock of white hair, was carrying an ancient hat and a three-legged stool out of the hall.
Oh,
said Hermione softly.
We've missed the sorting.
New students at Hogwarts were sorted into houses by trying on the sorting hat. We know.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rowling, get on with it. Which shouted at a house that they were best suited to. Gryffindor, Ravenclaw, Hufflepuff, or Slytherin. Okay. Professor McGonagall strode off toward her empty seat at the staff table, and Harry and Hermione set off in the other direction, as quietly as possible, toward the Gryffindor table. People looked around at them as they passed along the back of the hall, and a few of them pointed at Harry. Had the story of his collapsing in front of the Dementor travelled that fast? The answer is yes. He and Hermione sat down on either side of Ron, who had saved them seats.
What was all that about?
He muttered to Harry. Harry started to explain, in a whisper, but at that moment the headmaster stood up to speak, and he broke off. Professor Dumbledore, though very old, always gave an impression of great energy. He had several feet of long silver hair and beard, half-moon spectacles, and an extremely crooked nose. He was often described as the greatest wizard of the age, but that wasn't why Harry respected him. You couldn't help trusting Albus Dumbledore, and as Harry watched him beaming around at the students, he felt really calm for the first time since the Dementor had entered the train compartment.
Welcome,
said Dumbledore, candlelight shivering on his beard.
welcome to another year at Hogwarts. I have a few things to say to you all, and as one of them is very serious, I think it best to get it out of the way before you become befuddled by our excellent feast.
Do you think when he said serious, he winked at everyone?
He was like, that's the title of the book.
Oh, you'll find out in book 5.
Hey, Robbie, should we end it there? Because we won't get to the end of the chapter before the stream ends, and we might want to leave some time for questions and other stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. What we could also do, if you want, John, is end it for the nurse clap and then finish the chapter and then do some questions, because I'm happy to keep this going if you want.
Let's do that. Sounds great.
We're
Let's
running a
go
couple
to
of
the
pages.
end of the chapter. Yeah, let's do that.
Cool.
Okay, let's just finish it. I think we got 6 minutes. We'll manage the next page and a half in 6 minutes. Then we'll come back for questions.
Sounds good. All right. Dumbledore cleared his throat and continued.
As you will all be aware, after the search of the Hogwarts Express, our school is presently playing host to some of the Dementors of Azkaban, who are here on Ministry of Magic business.
He paused, and Harry remembered what Mr. Weasley had said about Dumbledore not being happy with the Dementors guarding the school.
They are stationed at every entrance to the grounds.
Dumbledore continued.
And while they are with us, I must make it plain that nobody is to leave school without permission. Dementors are not to be fooled by tricks or disguises or even invisibility cloaks.
He added blandly. Harry and Ron glanced at each other.
It is not in the nature of a Dementor to understand pleading or excuses. I therefore warn each and every one of you to give them no reason to harm you. I look to the prefects and our new head boy and girl to make sure that no student runs foul of the Dementors,
he said. Percy, who was sitting a few seats down from Harry, puffed out his chest again and stared around impressively. Dumbledore paused again. He looked very seriously around the hall, and nobody moved or made a sound.
On a happier note,
He continued,
I am pleased to welcome 2 new teachers to our ranks this year. Firstly, Professor Lupin, who has kindly consented to filling the post of Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher.
There was some scattered, rather unenthusiastic applause. Only those who had been in the compartment on the train with Professor Lupin had clapped hard, Harry among them. Professor Lupin looked particularly shabby next to all the other teachers in their best robes.
Look at Snape.
Ron hissed in Harry's ear. Professor Snape, the potions master, was staring along the staff table at Professor Lupin. It was common knowledge that Snape wanted the Defense Against the Dark Arts job, but even Harry, who hated Snape, was startled at the expression twisting his thin, sallow face. It was beyond anger. It was loathing. Harry knew that expression only too well. It was the look Snape wore every time he set eyes on Harry.
As to our second new appointment,
Dumbledore continued as the lukewarm applause for Professor Lupin died away.
well, I am sorry to tell you that Professor Kettleburn, our Care of Magical Creatures teacher, retired at the end of last year in order to enjoy more time with his remaining limbs.
What?
However,
What? He's like, he needed to retire because he has arms and legs.
Did like something like happen to him that they're just never going to explain?
I guess so.
J.K. Rowling's like, if you read between the lines, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, there's like this a whole fan fiction scene about what happened to him. Like stories,
Yeah.
probably.
Some incident, I'm sure.
however, I am delighted to say that his place will be filled by none other than Rubius Hagrid, who has agreed to take on this teaching job in addition to gamekeeping duties.
What? He's a teacher now. That's
Wow.
crazy.
Harry, Ron, and Hermione stared at one another, stunned. They joined in with the applause, which was tumultuous at the Gryffindor table in particular. Harry leant forward to see Hagrid, who was ruby red in the face and staring down at his enormous hands, his wide grin hidden in the tangle of his black beard.
We should have known.
Ron roared, pounding the table.
Who else would have sent us a biting book?
Harry, Ron, and Hermione were the last to stop clapping, and as Professor Dumbledore started speaking again, they saw that Hagrid was wiping his eyes on the tablecloth.
Well, I think that's everything of importance.
Said Dumbledore.
Let the feast begin.
Do you want to stop here?
Sure. Okay, everybody, we're logging out because Instagram only lets us do an hour. We'll be back just right away. Here, log back in, okay? Okay, wait. Hey, everybody. Applause your healthcare workers. Applause your healthcare workers. I'm just, you keep applauding. I'm applauding here. Yeah. Healthcare workers. Woo! I need to, invite, Robbie into the stream as soon as he logs into it. Thank you, healthcare workers, for everything you do, for all the hard work you're putting in while we're sitting around and, and reading Harry Potter. Thank you so much. Okay, where is Robbie? Okay, he's not in the stream quite yet. Just we'll wait a second or two. This is pretty fun. It's working out pretty well. Him reading the narration, me doing the voices. Okay, let's see here. Robbie K, there he is. Should be there in a second. Dexter, there he is. Okay, there you are.
I am.
Got you in.
I was just trying to figure out, John. When I ended the stream, the live just went away. I'm not sure that it's saved.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't. Maybe it's different on your end because you're joining or something.
Yeah, possibly. I can just redirect everyone to your page if they want to watch it again.
Okay, I think I know where to fix that. So we'll chat after. I think I can fix that.
Okay, great, cool.
Yeah. Okay, we're on the last page before we finish this chapter off.
Yeah, so let's finish this off. Dumbledore cleared his throat and continued.
Oh gosh, sorry. Where are we?
I think I'm in the right place.
Oh, no, we're at "Let the feast begin." Just when Dumbledore shouts that.
Let the feast begin.
Where is that?
The next line is the golden plates and goblets before them.
Oh yeah, hang on. Yep, got it. Okay. The golden plates and goblets before them filled suddenly with food and drink. Harry, suddenly ravenous, helped himself to everything he could reach and began to eat. It was a delicious feast. The hall echoed with talk, laughter, and the clatter of knives and forks. Harry, Ron, and Hermione, however, were eager for it to finish so that they could talk to Hagrid. They knew how much being made a teacher would mean to him. Hagrid wasn't a fully qualified wizard. He had been expelled from Hogwarts in his 3rd year for a crime he had not committed. It had been Harry, Ron, and Hermione who had cleared Hagrid's name last year. At long last, when the last morsels of pumpkin tart had melted from the golden platters, Dumbledore gave the word that it was time for them all to go to bed, and they got their chance.
Congratulations, Hagrid!
Hermione squealed as they reached the teacher's table.
All down to you three.
Said Hagrid, wiping his shining face on his napkin as he looked up at them.
I can't believe it. Great man Dumbledore came straight down to me after Professor Kettleburn said he'd had enough. It's what I always wanted.
Overcome with emotion, he buried his face in his napkin, and Professor McGonagall shooed them away. Harry, Ron, and Hermione joined the Gryffindors, streaming up the marble staircase and, very tired now, along more corridors, up and more stairs to the hidden entrance to Gryffindor Tower. You just imagine, like, they've all just eaten a massive meal, and it's like, all right, go do a 5K up the stairs.
Neville's just sweating profusely.
They're all like throwing up like off the side of the banister, like pumpkin going everywhere. Just like, there's nothing magic can do to stop that, my friend.
Maybe that's the reason why Neville is never along for the adventures, because they were like, "Hey, let's go run over here," and he's like, "No, I ate too much."
Yeah, he's like, "Are you joking me? That's like 3 castles away. I'm not doing that." Okay. Yeah. A large portrait of a fat lady in a pink dress asked them.
Password. Coming through.
Percy called from behind the crowd.
The new password. The passwords: Fortuna Major. Oh no!
Said Neville. He didn't make it up there. He's like on the 3rd floor still. There's no way.
He doesn't hear the password, so he has to go all the way down again to find out from somebody all the way back.
Inconsistent. Oh no, said Neville Longbottom sadly. He always had trouble remembering the passwords. Poor guy. Through the portrait hole and across the common room, the girls and boys divided toward their separate staircases. Harry climbed the spiral stair with no thought in his head except how glad he was to be back. They reached their familiar circular dormitory with its 5 4-poster beds. Harry, looking around, felt he was home at last.
Bam!
Boom!
Cool chapter.
Did it.
That was fun, man.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, I learned a lot about the world.
We got new creatures, Dementors, in this weird world. Wonder what they're going to get up to.
Very exciting. Is it exciting for you, seeing as you've been reading this whole time? Was it nice for you to actually listen rather than read? Or was it kind of the same?
Well, it's interesting when reading, because even if I looked up for a second, then it was like, oh, no, where's my place? I don't know if you felt the same way.
Yeah, it's tough balancing that. I just saw a question from someone. Robbie, do you have a criminal record? No, I do not. I have a clean record. Are
you sure?
I'm a law-abiding citizen, so just to clean that up. Didn't realize that was a question that people were asking, but there you go.
What's one thing that when you were a teenager, a thing you did that you got lots in trouble for?
I can't answer that.
Okay, that was a bad thing.
Can't answer
Robbie,
that.
what does it say here? Oh, that went past. Did you enjoy reading? Somebody asked. Yeah, we totally enjoyed it. This was a fun experiment. I think it works too, right?
Yeah, this was great. I hope the on your end, guys, how was the delay between us? Because I know it can be kind of odd going back and forth with the he says and the she says and all that stuff. So I'm interested. I got my copy of the book from my girlfriend Kerry, who has all of the books because she's a massive Potter fan.
Mm-hmm. So there's a question. What's some music you've been listening to during quarantine?
There's this great thing on Spotify where every week it's this thing called Discover Weekly, and every week there's new music that pops up, and it kind of like it sees what you've been listening to over the last week and kind of fine tunes it. So I've been really enjoying kind of like just listening to new songs and artists that I've never even listened to before. So if you're in the mood for like new music, you should definitely like check that out. Because it is quite accurate. Like it always recommends me like songs that I really enjoyed but have never heard before. Yeah,
Robbie. So they said there's no delay. It was fine. Worked really well. And the question was, how did we two meet? So
we met on a dating app. I haven't told Kerry yet. This might be a good time to tell you.
Sorry, Kerry.
We're together now.
Sorry, Kerry.
We're in love, and we're gonna live in the Harry Potter land forever. So I'm sorry.
Slytherin and Gryffindor are finally.
No. So John's a friend. We have a mutual friend, John Bryant, who is a really talented musician. So if you're looking for a musical recommendation, go check him out, John Bryant. He's a Canadian singer. Would you classify his genre as like folk, like indie rock or something?
Yes. I'd say indie rock. Singer-songwriter, indie, that kind of, because he does a lot of stuff also with himself on a guitar, but then also has a band. So
he did like a live session recently in his own bathtub, because obviously he's quarantined as well, and it was pretty amazing. Like given that he's got like no acoustics around, he's just like using his guitar and his voice. He's like utterly incredible. Like he's such a talented.
So good. Voice is amazing.
Yeah.
Question for you: how was it working on the set of Once Upon a Time?
I get that a lot.
Yes.
I mean, it's blanket statement was really great. It was one of the best experiences in my life. Made a lot of lifelong friends. Probably it was a pivotal moment in my career where it solidified my choice to sort of become an actor full time, because at the time I was still at school. So it was a really good experience for me. Met a lot of amazing people, found a lot out about myself as an actor, and learned a lot from some really talented people. And it'll always be a really positive experience in my mind.
Cool. I think some people are saying they want to see our individual friends who are helping. Well, my friend and your partner who are helping out. Do you want to get Kerry in there and Mark?
Yeah, you can come over if you want. Kerry's going to come over quick and say hello.
My buddy who's helping out.
Oh yeah, how you doing?
Good. Hi. Nice to meet you.
This is Kerry. She got all dressed up for this.
Yes. I love that.
Oh wow.
Kerry
get in here.
Do you have a wand? What? Okay. Are you a Gryffindor?
No.
No. Oh, it's not. What is it?
What is it?
It's Hufflepuff. It's
Oh, Hufflepuff. Okay.
I'm a Ravenclaw. Way better.
Robbie, do you prefer to play the villain or hero? Is a question here.
You can say anything, man.
Oh, you can.
Yeah. I mean, I find that characters are a little more complex than just hero and villains. I know in the case of Once Upon a Time, it was pretty clear cut, but both. I mean, I had an opportunity to play both throughout my career, and they're just. To me, it's more about the character and what that character brings to the table and what I can do with that. So I don't really have too much of a preference.
Yeah, I love playing the villain. That's it's so much more fun.
Yeah, what's your background, John?
Yeah. So I started out in theater. Still do theater a little bit, maybe one play a year. I do improv comedy every single week. I mean, when this isn't happening. Yeah, and slowly getting to film. So now I've directed music videos. So I'm in that world and in different ways.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's great.
Sasha just pointed out that the four of us are all individually each house.
Oh wow. Okay, so the four of us are individually each house.
Mark is a Ravenclaw.
Yeah. Oh, that's crazy.
Wow, represent.
So Robbie, should we take 2 or 3 more questions and
Yeah, sure.
yeah, and then bring it to an end? Out of all movies and TV shows you play, what is your favorite?
I can't. I mean, I know it sounds like a cop-out answer, but I really can't. I can't pick a favorite movie that I've done.
Yeah.
Like with us, it's every experience is so unbelievably different. They almost can't be compared. From location changes to personnel changes. I'm different ages as well. Like, I did a film when I was 10, did a film when I was, 23. So, I changed a lot, and as a result, so does the experience. But I will say, I find the longer the experiences go on, the more fondly I remember them. So shows like Once Upon a Time, shows like Heroes, where I was kind of a part of it for so long, it really kind of became more of a family for me. And so I have really fond memories from pretty much every filming experience I've ever done. I've been very lucky to work with some great people, and not really had too many horrible, shouty, screamy directors or horrible co-stars.
Right.
They've all generally been great. So
that's really great that you haven't had those experiences, because we both know actors where that has been a part of the journey. You're on some kind of production where there's one person in power who's ruining almost everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's very disruptive.
Somebody asked quickly, what is my favorite quality about Dexter? It's that he's a mixture of a cat and a dog. How he just been lying there for an hour, and that's what he does. But when it's time to play, he plays. It's awesome.
Sounds like a perfect pet.
Yeah. What's another question? Do you want to pick one out? There's plenty.
Yeah, I'll pick one out.
A lot of them.
What's your favorite quarantine snack? We baked some Reese's cookies last night, which were fantastic. We had to put them away because we were eating so many of them. It was becoming a problem. So yeah, I guess that right now. Did you like working with Thomas Sangster as a kid? Yeah, Thomas was great. Thomas Sangster and I worked together on a TV movie called Pinocchio years ago, and I think at the time I was 12, he was 17, and he was lovely, really, really nice guy. He's since gone on to have a fantastic career. Really happy for him. So yeah, I have nothing but great things to say about him.
Nice.
I'll ask one to you, John. John, what does Mark do that upsets you as a roommate?
Oh gosh, what does he do that upsets you?
Nothing. I'm immaculate.
Oh, he's immaculate.
So his cockiness, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. He's
Massive
super cocky.
His huge ego.
We all know that you take the lead on that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, what kind of guy puts himself on camera every day?
Just the most arrogant, attention-seeking guy.
Arrogant person.
Here's Dexter. Well, Robbie, I think it was a lot of fun. Hey.
Yeah, this was great.
like
I'm
this.
just going to answer one more
Yeah.
question. Are you planning any new projects when quarantine ends? So yeah, obviously, like as an actor, we're constantly auditioning and looking for the next project. So with this quarantine, everything's ground to a halt. So there's no new projects, and it's very hard to audition at the moment because everything's shut. All the offices are shut, and nobody's accepting self-tapes or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, I'm constantly looking out for work, looking out for the next project that's right for me, and hopefully when this is all over, I'll be able to sort of get back on the saddle. But I'm very eager to hop onto the next project. So it's a real shame that this happened when it did, because there were a couple of things kind of circulating. But is what it is, and just have to take it day by day.
Yeah, oh, that's too bad. We'll see how the industry changes when this starts up again. It's all up in the air right now.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of projects that were barely funded, a lot of the independent projects will struggle, I think, to get off the ground once it restarts. Yeah. I think there might have been financiers that have gone, okay, let's not do this anymore. This is too much of a risk at the moment. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's going to be really disruptive. I think there's going to be a lot of. I mean, obviously everyone's out of work at the moment, so it'll be interesting to see. Is there more work for people? Is there less work for people? For crew as well. Kerry's a costume designer, so same thing with her. Yeah. She's worried about what's going to happen when we get back. So I think every industry, to an extent, has been affected quite significantly from this.
Yeah, I think for sure a lot of editions are going to just stay online. Not having to go into a lot of rooms. That's going to change for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it already has done a lot. I moved. It's funny. I moved to LA specifically for that reason, so that I could take meetings in person. And almost as soon as I moved here, all of the offices suddenly started doing self tapes, and I was like, "What am I doing here? I could be anywhere right now."
You could have done from home.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for coming on here, man. This is really great. Thanks for your time. It's been. I was thinking, I don't know how this is gonna go, but it worked perfectly, in my opinion.
Yeah, this is great. This is good fun. I'd be interested to read more. I'm kind of getting invested in the story now.
Me too, man. It's like it starts getting its claws into you, and it's like, I want to read again, but I can't now because I've committed to this every single day, right?
Yeah, no, it's great. Well, listen, I think you're doing a great job. I think this is a great little bit of positivity for people. Good luck with the rest of it.
Thanks, man.
So yeah, I do want to know though how I can save this live.
Yeah, I can make that happen for you. I think so. We'll chat afterwards, and I think I figured out a way in my mind how we can make it work. Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Thanks so much, Robbie. Thanks for everybody tuning in. We do this every single day at 6 p.m. So tune in if you want to catch up. I got all the other videos in the link in my bio, so you can catch up on YouTube. All the other readings that we had. I'm gonna save this one there too. For any of your followers, if they want to follow along, you can let them know how to do that. Thanks so much. This was really great.
All right, cheers, guys. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.